Welcome into Eye on Northeast Kansas, the podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. This is where we recap the top interviews you heard over the past week on Eye on Northeast Kansas, the TV show. That comes to you streaming live Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock Central Time on WIBW.com. All the fun takes place in our WIBW studios in Topeka, Kansas. We have had a huge traffic project underway really for several years now in Topeka. I-70 through downtown has what's known as the Polk Quincy Viaduct. It is basically a big curve that goes back and forth. It has been the scene of several wrecks over the years, especially as more vehicle traffic has come to light and those vehicles are larger. Speeds have gone faster. So we have gotten some federal funding. There's a state, local, federal partnership, all of it coming to replace the Polk Quincy Viaduct and flatten that curve. For all drivers, it has already meant that there is a single lane of traffic through the area. It has caused some street closures from sometimes on the weekends. They've actually shut down the highway one direction. All of this in preparation for the actual highway demolition and reconstruction and realignment to take place. That's going to start next spring. So while it's been an inconvenience for drivers, several organizations are actually having to relocate. One of those is Let's Help. It's a group that provides a lot of services for people who are underserved or disadvantaged in the Topeka area. They have a new executive director. His name is Pat Yancey, and they are about to make the move from their current facility, which is going to be wiped out by the realignment, to a new facility. So Pat visited us on the red couch to update the situation. So welcome to you, Pat.
Thank you for having me.
You've been involved with Let's Help for a while, correct?
Right. I was on the board for about a year and a half before taking over as the executive director.
Let's Help has quite a history in Topeka. For those who aren't familiar, how long have you been around and what sorts of services are you providing?
Let's Help has been around since 1969. And one of the base things that we do is, foundational anyways, is a community hot meal that we provide to individuals that come to Let's Help who are hungry. We also have a food pantry. We have a clothing bank. We also offer a variety of emergency services assistance like rent assistance, utility assistance, prescription assistance, and so on. Yeah, we've been doing this for decades and we plan to keep going.
You've got a big change though to keep those services. You're located right now around that 1st and South Kansas Avenue area.
Correct.
Right under pretty much the current path of the Polk Quincy Viaduct. You must relocate
that
because
is
of the construction.
Right. The viaduct will go over where our building currently is today. So we are moving to, our new address will be 245 Southwest McVicker. And we will be located just on north of the intersection of 6th and McVicker. And
the building is almost ready to go. That's what it looks like where it is. How much logistically, how challenging has this been, and how is this move going to work? Because you're not in the building yet.
Correct.
But you will be later this month.
Right. The building is in wonderful shape. It is ready to move in. And we've already begun doing a lot of planning and organizing, figuring out what's going to go where in the new building, all of those kinds of things. So the building will officially close on Thursday, August the 15th.
Your current building will
close.
Our
current building, that is correct. And the move will officially begin on Monday, August the 19th. So that gives us a few days to box things up and get things prepared for the final move. The overall moving of everything, the unbundling and the reassembly and all of that, we have targeted a couple of weeks. So we will reopen in our new location on Tuesday, September the 3rd.
What are you doing to ensure people are served during that interim where you're going to be closed?
Well, we are, first off, we're communicating with everybody to let them know, hey, here's what's happening, here's what the plan is. And for individuals that need help, they can still call and we can get them scheduled and get them the help that they need while we transition through this. The meals will be difficult, obviously, because moving kitchen equipment and getting it set up and getting it ready. But you know, we're hopeful that we can actually go a little bit ahead of schedule, and if we can, we'll get reopened even earlier if we can.
And you've alerted community partners that you aren't going to be able to provide a meal during that 2 weeks, and the hope is that others will be able to step up or
correct.
Expect a bigger crowd.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of outreach on that right now, and we'll continue to do that over the next couple of weeks.
How are you doing outreach to the people that you serve as far as the new location? Because one of the things about your current location is, it's no secret, the mission is on the other side of the bridge. A lot of unsheltered people live in that area and rely on you. So how are you going to be able to serve them when you move over to the 6th and McVicker area?
Yeah, we've been communicating with them for the last month as well on that. Even today we were conducting a survey of individuals that come through for the meal. And we're asking them things like, will you find us? Do you know where we're going to be? And are there other services that we might be able to help you with? So we're getting some really good information on that as well. It's just a transition. So we want everybody to know here's what it is and here's what our plan is. The board at Let's Help and I are all very focused on maintaining a connection to the individuals who might be transportation limited to get to our new location. So we're working on some strategies to address those needs. About 2/3 of our individuals that come for services drive, so I think they'll be able to find us, but it's that other 1/3 that we're thinking about.
And what is the bright spot of the new location? What are some of the things you might be able to do that you can't do currently?
Well, for one, it's all on one level. So from beginning to end, it opens up a whole new host of opportunities that we might be able to partner with others in the community to really meet the needs of the individuals that we're trying to serve in Topeka and Shawnee County.
Well, Pat Yancey, we appreciate the update. We will keep everyone posted with how things are going to work in that 2 to 2.5 week interim as you close and move to the new location. Appreciate you being here.
Thank
Let's
you
Help
so
has
much.
a long history of assisting the community, so it is here to stay.
We will keep everyone updated on the journey for Let's Help, as well as all of the work that is happening with that highway project on WIBW.com. Shawnee County also has some new projects about to get underway and some projects that are wrapping up. Commissioner Kevin Cook joined us to update us.
Welcome to you. Thanks for being
Good
here.
afternoon.
So yeah, the big announcement today, we heard from Shawnee County Department of Corrections. They are breaking ground next Wednesday on a mental health facility. What is that facility going to be and what is it going to do?
So next Wednesday at 10:30, we'll have the official groundbreaking for the mental health, behavioral health unit at the Shawnee County Jail. So this is a $20 million investment into Shawnee County, and it is partnered with the state of Kansas, the Shawnee County taxpayers through a bond initiative taken out by Shawnee County. That's $10 million, and the state of Kansas partnered with $10 million. And so this is going to be a real advancement for the Shawnee County Department of Corrections, where we're going to be focusing in on mental health issues, drug and alcohol issues for people that come in critical maybe state of affairs, so addressing that at the jail. So again, this is also to try to address competency issues, because a lot of times people will wait a long time to be able to go out to Larned, which is a mental health facility, to become competent for trial. So this is shortening that period, again, so that cases can be heard in a timely manner and so that we have justice in a timely manner.
This is a partnership with the state of Kansas. So
Correct.
when you talk about those sorts of things, it's not just going to be Shawnee County offenders or Shawnee County inmates who would use it? Or
We're primarily looking at Shawnee County offenders and Shawnee County inmates that will be using it.
will there be some others from other areas, though, through the partnership with the state, or is that still to be worked out?
Possibly, but that would have to be worked out.
What is it about addressing those needs that makes this a good investment? Because I know there are probably some out there saying, oh, I'm paying for this for people who've chosen not to follow the law. But what is the payoff for the average taxpayer?
So let's talk about that for a moment. If you were to look at a person who comes in and maybe they're having a real mental health crisis, they've not been taking their medications because of their mental health issues. If the court determines that they are not competent to stand trial, they have to wait to go to Larned Mental Health Facility for that restoration of competency. That process, just getting there, sometimes wouldn't take up to a year. That's a year that they're sitting in the Shawnee County Jail, that your tax dollars, my tax dollars, and sometimes over $300 a day is paying for. If we can shorten that period, be able to get the mental health services to them now, be able to get those mental health issues addressed, a lot of times they're medication related, and then be able to get the trial started. Again, if you are the victim of a crime and you're waiting over a year for your trial to even start, that can be very frustrating. That can add to a lot of stress to you.
And what about the reoffending rate? How does this perhaps address that as well?
That absolutely addresses that, so that we can get upstream and try to address those mental health issues so that people are not reoffending. For them, maybe it's not a felony offense, maybe this is a lower offense, but again, addressing those mental health issues so that we can bridge the gap in getting them to the services that they need in the community.
Something a little more fun. Let's talk about the parks.
Absolutely.
Family Park. We're going to see that open sometime?
We are looking at maybe the end part of August for the opening of that. We're getting really close to the end. If you go by Family Park over on 21st and Urish, The pickleball courts are poured. We're putting in the final details. The big amusement, the gymnasium equipment is coming up. So all of this is coming along pretty rapidly. We're pretty close. I was out in Oakland on Wednesday night. They were filling the pool on Wednesday night for the Oakland pool.
Do we know if it's going to be able to open, though? I know they've been struggling with hopefully being able to find lifeguards, and that wasn't...
We are still looking at having it open this year. We've got some lifeguards that have committed to,
We don't know a date yet, though.
You know, I hate to say sunk my battleship, but we're really close to having this come through this year. And so, again, I was talking with the crew. Again, this was at 8:30. They were working on getting the pool filled so they can have it chlorinated, make sure everything looks great. And it does look great out there.
Well, we will keep everybody posted as Parks and Rec makes a decision on whether they can have it open, even for a day, for people to at least be able to dive in. So stay tuned, as we like to say. But also improvements are coming to Crestview. We talked about that on our news yesterday. The tennis courts perhaps being repurposed into basketball.
Correct. So looking at what is a high need, this is a high need for a summer camp, and so the summer camps are taking the tennis courts that are there, they're going to come in, mill overlay it, turning them into 2 basketball courts. It's going to be a great facility upgrade for that community center.
And where are we at in a timeline of getting a Gage Park master plan? All sorts of ideas have been floated around out there. When are we going to know what we might see?
We're still working on that. That Gage Park Improvement Authority is working on that. I think that by the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, we should be looking at that Gage Park master plan.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see it. Commissioner Kevin.
A lot happening.
It is a lot. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate the updates.
Of course, you can tune in for complete coverage of that groundbreaking of the mental health facility next Wednesday on 13 News. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation is celebrating 1 year for its K9 unit. It has 5 dogs and handlers in all. 4 of those are drug detection dogs specifically trained to sniff out fentanyl. But the 5th member of the team, his name is Count. He is trained to do something a little bit different. He and his handler, Senior Special Agent Aaron Heckmeister, visited to let us know all about it.
We just want to explain that Count's a little bit more interested in the food than he is in the camera, so he might just be chilling out here. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What is it that Count does?
So Count is an electronic storage detection canine, and what he does is he focuses on a component that is in all electronic devices that keep them from overheating. And so he has been trained to focus on that component and sniff it out.
So you're talking things like laptops, SD cards, cell phones. How does that translate into law enforcement? What do those things contain that would be influential for you?
So what we are using him for is part of our Northeast Child Victims Task Force here in Topeka. We are using those are being used for people that are hiding explicit images of children and stuff, and so that's what we're focusing on, is going and finding those devices where people are hiding the child sexual exploitation material.
So mainly those types of cases, but that's not all, because other people use cell phones in commission of other crimes. What other kinds of cases has he been involved in?
So we've helped out with a case in Douglas County on a death investigation as well. We've helped out with parole violations of sex offenders and things like that.
November is when Count started?
November, I got him in November, late October, November. Did 2 weeks of training in Indianapolis with him and brought him back November 13th.
How busy have you been since then?
We've had about, I guess, since 18 deployments since we've been back. So we had 2 this week. One with Johnson County Sheriff's Office that we helped out with on Wednesday, and then yesterday we had one in Riley County where he found a small micro SD card in the suspect's bedroom. So it was a very proud moment for us.
You came in handy, Count. Good job. Good boy. He's wagging his tail down there. So there's another component to him as well, because if people will notice, the patch right here in the middle of his back actually says, "I'm friendly, please pet me." And you're not always going to see that on a law enforcement canine, because the drug dogs, they also are trained in tracking down suspects, and so they're going to be a little bit more aggressive, if you will. You're going to want to be cautious in approaching them. Count's a little different. What's his other training?
So he is also a comfort therapy dog, so he comes home with me, spends time with my wife and I at home, but he also goes to the office. He has a bed in our office. He plays with all the other agents in headquarters and the staff in headquarters. So he provides comfort for people that are going through bad times. We'll also take him in when we do an interview with a child to kind of calm that situation down as well, and get them to be a little bit more open with their story or what happened to
What
him.
is the impact that you see somebody like Count have on a child?
You know, it's great because this morning or this afternoon they were doing an interview of a child, and he was out there at the scene in Riley County yesterday during the search warrant, and the child saw Count, and then saw him again today when we went into the office, and so she was just able to see the dog and get happy, and was able to kind of tell her story.
It's easy to look at the dog, and the dog's not going to judge you as you're talking, rather than having to look at a strange person.
Right.
How does it help all of you around the office? I mean, you guys don't always see the easiest stuff.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's great about him, is that we look at some bad images, and so he is able to just kind of give you a breath of fresh air, of a release from doing that kind of work. We can play ball with him in the headquarters.
Don't break a window.
Yeah, he runs down the hall, and you know, just has fun with everybody in the office.
When you show up at a scene, who are people happier to see? Who do they greet first, you or Count?
He's always greeted first, even in the office too. So I'm used to people saying, "Hi, Count," and then, "Oh, hey, Aaron, how are you?" So it's nice.
How much do you guys keep up on training, though, as well?
So he is a food-driven dog, so he and I train every single day, at least once or at least twice a day. And so when he trains and finds devices is when he gets fed, or when he's doing obedience training, he'll get fed as well.
He's just giving me the eyes. He's giving me the eyes. Agent Hackmeister, thank you for being here. Count, appreciate you being here as well. Very fascinating work, and great to see.
Thank you.
Great to see Count on the job.
Count is very sweet, also very treat motivated. So we didn't get to see his face a lot. If you go check out the video of this segment, you'll see that Count was keeping a close eye on Agent Hackmeister, hoping to be rewarded as a good boy. And he is a good boy. We have told you from time to time about Topeka United's efforts, specifically their Mosaic Partner Pairs. While the adult enrollment has closed, but they want to get teenagers involved. Angel Zimmerman and Daisy Karimi told us their motivation for the program.
How teens can get involved now. Welcome to both of you. And tell me how you two met. Daisy?
Oh, thank you so much. So me and Angel met through the Mosaic adult conversation.
You were matched through the pairs.
It was such a wonderful conversation together. Essentially, we matched up at 65%. That was a little bit higher than normal, around 70. From there, we've just started to build a relationship and also community work.
Absolutely. How did this develop then, Angel? What did you two start learning about each other? You hadn't met before the program.
Yeah, we hadn't met before the program, but several people were pretty excited when they saw the scores and saw who was going to be matched with who. And as Daisy and I went through probably about the first 2 or 3 months together, we realized teens is where it was absolutely at. And then by the end of the program, Daisy's like, "Would you help me run a program for youth?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then we started talking. I was like, "Well, why don't we just do this for youth?"
Right, because the partner pairs, what you do through Topeka United is it matches people up that maybe aren't from the same background, maybe may not have met otherwise, and you just get to know each other, and you learn about how, despite your differences, you're all kind of united toward a common goal. In your case, it was the teenagers. So what do you feel? Why was this so important to you, Daisy, to start a program for teenagers to do what you and Angel did?
Excellent question. So essentially what I saw through the program was this was a beautiful conversation, and I wish I had it when I was in college. Unfortunately, I didn't have any tools or resources that provided that information, and I was like, what if we could actually provide that for a younger generation, especially when they're heading off to college or other activities in their life. Just a dialogue to understand diversity and a depth conversation. Also, that's kind of fun.
It is fun. Are there some fears, do you feel like, especially for teens, to be able to kind of go outside their comfort zone and reach out to people who they maybe don't know? And especially, I mean, we're talking about back to school, college time. This is the time when teens have to kind of start reaching out.
This is a good opportunity to kind of have that safe, facilitated conversation. You're given the questions that you ask and that you've already decided that you're going to answer together. And then this year is going to be a little unique because we're going to actually start the day or start the evening out with the adults and then break off and have our conversations on how does that impact us and what can we do with the future, and then really asking them for their conversation to filter back up to our community.
How do you tailor this for teens then? What is the time commitment and how can it work around a busy teenager schedule?
So that was a real great partnership that we did with teachers. Also, Angel's a teacher in her spare time at the same time, so we understood exactly like weekend conversations are the best time, 2-hour segments, availabilities around times that school schedule or school football games are not going on and so forth. So we scheduled it around that time.
And how do they get involved if they would like to? And is there a certain age range that people have to be?
Yeah, so we'd really like to see probably like the 15 to 18 age range, and you can sign up all the way until August 15th, so middle of next week is great. We've got a kickoff going August 26th, and this year we're excited because we're going to take the entire program throughout the school year, so it'll run August to May this year.
Very good. And how many teenagers are you going to accept in, or does it just depend on how many apply?
It kind of is depending on how many apply, but it will be a fairly small group so we can have some in-depth conversations.
How many years have you been doing this? Is this just the second time?
This is second year.
Second year. So how many kids did you have involved last year? And what was kind of the journey, the transition that you saw from the beginning to the end?
We had a group of at least 6 kids that were together. We didn't partner them up immediately just because there's an algorithm that is associated, but we would discover Topeka together essentially. So we started off, one of the favorite stories I like to share with people, we had one student who never went to Fiesta Topeka. When we had a diversity conversation, we matched that with Fiesta Topeka, and she was like, I wish we had something like that here in our community. So it was a wonderful experience from there.
Great. The Mosaic Partner Pairs for the teens, the adult applications are closed. Teens can apply until the 15th, and then it gets underway on the 24th of August. Go to topekaunited.org or scan that QR code. I'll have a direct link on WIBW.com. Head to the Topeka United website. The Teen Mosaic Partner Pairs applications are still being accepted. The program itself gets underway with the meetings and sessions later on in August. We had a very special couple join us with a very personal and emotional story. Kathy and Dan Keck adopted their little girl, Mireya, when she was just 8 weeks old. Her biological mom, authorities believe, had shaken her, and it left Mireya with some permanent disabilities. Mireya sadly passed away earlier this year, but Kathy and Dan are channeling her life and her legacy into raising awareness and also some prevention efforts. They joined us to let us know her story and how they're remembering her legacy. Thank you both for being here. And we shared a bit about Mireya's story last week on our news, but for those who missed it, Kathy, who was Mireya?
So Mireya was our 8-year-old daughter. Mireya came to us when she was 8 weeks. At 7 weeks, Mireya had been shaken, and at 8 weeks, we got the call to see if we would take her into our home. And we're told she might have some mild developmental delays, and we said, sure, we'll take her, and we ended up with a different journey than that.
The delays were quite serious. How did what happened to her as a baby, shaken baby syndrome, how did that impact her, Dan?
It really set her back. She was significantly delayed. She ended up needing a tracheostomy and a feeding tube, but it really did set her back.
But despite all of that, we have some beautiful pictures of Mireya, because that smile, Kathy, how did she inspire everyone around her and impact everyone around her?
Well, Mireya, people would see Mireya and sometimes I'm going to assume feel sorry for her because of her complex medical needs, but Mireya never let that stop her. Her smile it could light up the whole room. I've been told so many times she had $1 million smile and a giggle that can make anybody laugh, and she was just, despite her circumstances, the happiest, most joyful little girl.
And sadly, Mireya passed away in January. She was 8 years old, and her smile, though, lives on because, look at that. How can it not? How have you worked to make Mireya's life continue to have purpose, Dan?
Kathy has put together a wonderful website. It's stopshakenbaby.com, and she is using that as a platform to try and eliminate shaken baby. We are trying to, there's also smiles, the Mireya smiles that you can share on the website.
Okay, yes, and you have cards. You can do it through the website, or there are these little cards that hopefully you're going to be fortunate enough for someone to give one to you, because random acts of kindness. Why are kindness and smiles so important to you, Kathy, when you remember Mireya?
Well, I think when somebody does a random act of kindness, it makes you smile, right? And Mireya could smile at anyone and they would just, their hearts would light up. So we came up with this concept of random smiles of kindness to kind of keep her memory alive and her legacy and her big smile, all while trying to educate and teach people awareness about shaken baby and then prevention on how you can stop that from happening.
How important is prevention, and what can we do to prevent? Because what happened to Mireya was not an accident, allegedly. There were some things involved there. So how do we work to prevent? What can we do for families, for young parents, parents of any age really, to prevent this from happening again?
I think first awareness that this can happen if you shake your baby, significant. 80% of children who are shaken end up with a significant disability lifelong, and 1 in 4 children who are shaken die. And so that's pretty startling statistics, I think. And then to prevent, I think there's lots of ways to start preventing, like teaching, people, for families to understand what the normal crying pattern of an infant is, and working on those coping skills of what do you do. And I know I talked last week about how we have a lot of great prenatal care for moms, but then after you have the baby, you get 1 or 2 natal cares, and then good luck with this new little life that you have screaming in your house, perhaps. And so how can we change some of those policies that allow for there to be more touch points for new families to learn how to adjust to a new infant in your home and a crying baby and what's normal?
Mireya has already inspired policy change. There's a Mireya's Law. What is that?
So Mireya's Law changes the penalty code for shaken baby to a higher penalty if someone does shake their little one. That in the past it used to be that the maximum sentence could be probation, and the maximum sentence 2 years. And in 2019, Mireya's Law was passed by Governor Kelly, and that changes the penalty code for both shaken baby and also involuntary manslaughter to a child under the age of 6.
We noticed that you love to be decked out in butterflies. So what do butterflies mean to you? What should we think of when we see butterflies?
Well, Mireya loved butterflies, and we love butterflies because Mireya's whole life was about transformation, and we just think of the beautiful cycle that butterflies go through from the chrysalis to something so beautiful. And that's what I think of with Mireya, because when she was injured, not a lot of people had a lot of hope for her quality of life.
But you gave her a great quality of life, you gave her purpose, and boy, is she inspiring. So if people would like to learn about Mireya, see that smile, share the kindness, you can go to their website. It is Shaken Baby Awareness, correct?
Stop Shaken Baby.
StopShakenBaby.com. That's where you will find Mireya's smiling face and all of the information. Kathy, Dan, thank you so very much for sharing Mireya with all of us and your important work. So good. Thank you.
Once again, StopShakenBaby.com is where you can go to learn about Dan and Kathy's efforts. It's also where you can get one of those smiles to share for a random act of kindness. Mireya was a very special little girl, and her legacy definitely will continue to live on and touch many more lives. We are glad you could spend some time with us on Eye on Northeast Kansas. Remember, you can see the videos from these segments and all the segments from our guests on WIBW.com. You'll also find them on our WIBW 13 News YouTube channel. Please be sure to click subscribe while you're there and see our studio selfies, a little behind the scenes look with all our guests on my Facebook page, WIBW Melissa Bruner. Until next time, we'll see you on the red couch.